Get you in the back of the throat.
Oh boy.
Oh no. It's the lips. I don't want the lips to be burning. I really need to try to cleanse just to see what the milk will do.
Yeah.
I think part of it, part of my worry is I felt like I'm worried the milk is just going to be a hero. My cheeks and my fingers are tingling. I mean, listen, I'm not going to die. It's not like I don't feel like I'm on like the Hot Wings hottest hot, thing, what you see, but this just sucks. It's just not fun. I will say this. My stomach is a disaster. It's a disaster. There's
going to be so rough.
There's going to be some issues.
All right, everybody. We are finally here. The long-awaited Carolina Reaper Hot Wings and Football episode, where Mark Hespin is going to have to eat 6 Carolina Reaper wings. I had to dress for the occasion here, Mark.
You look great.
You got the receipts.
It's the Blazin'. I can post the receipt on there, but you see it says Blazin', the new Blazin' challenge with the Carolina Reaper wings. I got the celery in there. These things smell insane, Dan.
I can imagine. I know you were telling me right before we started here that your car is full of the smell. So even when you're done with this torturous experience, you get to drive home with that smell still emanating all around you.
Yeah, very true. I honestly, we were just talking too. The fact that this happened, the Bears lost Monday night, and I knew that my fate was sealed after that ridiculous 66-yard attempt from the great Cairo Santos, who's made 40 field goals in a row, was on fire. It was so mean of Nagy to do that to him, just throw up the bomb. We'll get into that anyways. The wait for this has been worse, I think, almost than what I'm about to experience. I've just wanted this over with, and so I'm actually kind of glad we're just getting it done and getting it over with.
Yeah, for a quick recap, for any of those who have somehow been, living under a rock or not familiar with the challenge, I went to the Steelers game, Monday Night Football against the Bears in Pittsburgh this past week. So Mark and I said, him being a Bears fan, me a Steelers fan, whoever's team loses, that person's going to have to eat 6 of these Carolina Reaper wings. So that's why we are here today on the show. He's got to last it as we talk about the NFL. We'll recap a little bit of, week 9. We'll talk about the Monday night game, and then we'll look ahead a little bit to some of the matchups coming up here in week 10. So a little bit different format for this show, but I think you all can understand the reasoning for that.
I'm sick and tired of my Bears bringing me pain. Can I just say that?
I was telling Grace during the game that I was saying I was more dreading, like I would accept a Steelers loss over having to eat the wings. It was like, that was what concerned me more throughout the evening, was having to do this. So best of luck to you. I am dressed here. I got my tie in Reaper red.
You look good.
So,
hey, Carolina's had a big week. We got Carolina Reaper wings, got Panthers paying all sorts of quarterbacks, getting Cam back. We'll get into all that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll start before Mark gets into this, treacherous endeavor. I want to get your thoughts on the Monday night game real quick before you begin eating the wings and just go into this death spiral. So Bears fall 29-27. You mentioned it, last second, Hail Mary attempt of a field goal there, falls short, and the Steelers hang on to win. Obviously, a big takeaway from this game, refs were really bad all around, but particularly against the Bears. It did not work in their favor, but kind of a weird game. I will say it was a really fun game to be at, obviously, with the ups and downs. But yeah, your thoughts on how the Bears performed and how this one turned out.
I'm kind of glad we're recording this a couple days after, because you get to sit with it a little bit more. And I think the thing that keeps coming back to me is Justin Fields. I mean, that is exactly what you're looking out of for your young quarterback, to just keep growing and keep improving. I know the numbers still aren't incredible, but and I'm sure you experienced in the stadium, and I want you to start talking about this when I start going into pain. Maybe you can give me some pleasure out of just hearing that, what the Steelers fans were like watching Justin Fields and seeing that, like, was there a buzz about him? Because from watching on TV, there was a buzz. I mean, the Monday night crew, Louis Riddick did a great job, kind of giving you the growth and what he's seeing. I think Justin Fields using his legs so much better now than he was even 3-4 weeks ago. And that's growing in his game so much. And the fact that the Bears found a way to get back in this game. I mean, they were dead to rights in the Tampa game, and they never showed life. This had a similar feeling early in the game, and yet they found a way to make a competitive battle and get in and get back in this game. So that's all positive. I think there was obviously some horrendous officiating, but the Bears, the reason they had 12 penalties for over 100 yards was not all the officiating. The Bears are an undisciplined team, and that comes directly on the head coach. That's one of those things where you don't see Bill Belichick's guys getting penalties the way that the Bears players get penalties. Like, yeah, there were some bad calls, but overall, the offsides, the undisciplined aspect of it, that falls a lot on the head coach. And so that's disappointing again, just because you feel like the Bears shot themselves in the foot a ton in that game. I will say this though, from the standpoint of the actual game and the Steelers, great win for them, and especially then seeing what happens on Thursday night last night with the Ravens laying a complete egg. This AFC North wide open again, and the Steelers are really finding identity. Najee Harris is a physical component to their offense. Watching Big Ben continue to be accurate the football and finding a ways, they're running almost like a Drew Brees type offense the past couple of years. It's quick, out of his hands, accurate, short. Hopefully your playmakers can make a play. And so the Steelers, I mean, again, neither of those teams when you watch them felt like they would do damage in the playoffs. But the Steelers certainly at this point in time are starting to feel like that's a team, though, that is going to make a playoff run or be there in the end. And that's the first time I felt that way about the Steelers this season so far watching him. So that was my quickest takeaways in the game. I think I would have been a lot more angry if we were recording Tuesday. But, you let things settle. The refs, listen, what are you going to do? The NFL they're going in this way with the taunting. I think it's just embarrassing for the league. I think it's bad publicity for the league. And so that's my final thoughts on it. I want to hear, before my mouth starts on fire and I can't really articulate my thoughts, I do want to hear what your experience in the stadium was like and the buzz around Justin Fields as he was making plays from Steelers fans.
Sure. Yeah. Let me start from the beginning, just walking into the stadium there, because something pretty funny happened. So we're just soaking up the concourse or whatever. And then we go head for the escalators to kind of go up to our level seats. And, there's obviously a group of people trying to go to the same direction. And there's this Steelers fan already clearly, sauced and half in the bag. And he's just shouting stuff, not even at a specific Bears fan, but just against the Bears in general. No one really knew who he was targeting this at. And everyone's just like, oh gosh, here, this guy already. And then he steps onto the escalator. The first step, he absolutely wipes out. And he has a beer in his hand. So the beer goes everywhere.
Oh,
and
Lord.
he, instead of getting up, he just stays there and lets the escalator take him up as he's laying.
Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Just laying like this. And so they had to stop the escalator. They had to get security come and get this guy out of there. And we're all like, we just want to get to our seats.
This guy. Welcome to Pittsburgh, Dan.
That was a great start right there.
For Grace.
We had really cool seats because we were high up, obviously, but I loved it because we got a great perspective. It was almost like you were watching it in the all 22, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get a full feel, but we were still close enough, it seemed, that you didn't feel like you needed binoculars or anything. So yeah, we were right around the 50-yard line, and you could kind of tell right away in this game, Mark, that they were utilizing Justin Fields in a little bit different of a way. Obviously, he had been creating through chaos the past couple weeks in terms of using his legs. This time, they actually, had quite a few designed runs for Fields, and that gave the Steelers some fits early on. I will say, in terms of the reaction to him playing, obviously there were some groans every time he would get out in space because he would get, 7, 8, 10 yards a pop along the sidelines on a lot of those runs. So everyone's like, oh gosh, there was it seemed a mutual respect of kind of what he could do and what he can create. And I will say, man, just some of those throws were just, I was saying it even at the game, But then watching it back later, I'm like, man, those were big boy throws like that.
Yeah.
He was really, threading the needle quite a few times. Really quality throws down the seam to the tight ends, which just seemed to be open for them a lot this game. And then rolling out and throwing against his body. He was making some big plays, and you just came away after that game thinking, man, they got something special. I can't, you hate to bring it back to this. There were moments with Trubisky, I think, and maybe you could speak better to this, but there were moments with Trubisky where it's like always with his legs, you felt like, oh wow, there's a nice snapshot, but I never felt like, oh man, they got something special when it comes to any of the throws he made. He made some good throws, don't get me wrong, but it was nothing to the effect of rolling left and then throwing against your body and trying to fit it into a window. Fields did that already in just a few games in his starting career. So I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, I don't want to be too harsh revisionist history. I mean, there was that Tampa game early in his career when he had the 6 touchdowns with Nagy in season 1. We start to think, and he had a couple big bomb throws that were like, oh, Mitchell. Like, I mean, obviously it was always the legs. So the thing about with Justin that I'm really enjoying compared to my Mitchell experience is that it does feel as though there is that growth and that understanding of what it takes to be the modern quarterback. And physically, you do just see it a little bit more. I mean, listen, I've been burned so many times by Bears quarterbacks. The ceiling I think is so high for Fields right now. What you're seeing, I do think you're starting to see that special. But again, the thing that's always been a trouble with Bears quarterbacks, Jay Cutler was always special, but it was never week to week. It was never season to season. It was never you can just count on if he has one bad game, it's all right. He's going to bounce back because the next 2 or 3, he'll get it together. You see it with Lamar Jackson last night. He was bad last night. But Lamar Jackson overall shows a consistency game to game, season to season, where it's like he's going to win you more games than he loses. He's going to play better at closer to MVP level than the stinker level more often. So right now, again, it's still very early, but that's certainly what I felt from that game is a lot of what you said is those moments of like, okay, there is something here, but so much then you question the coaching staff, you question a lot of the talent around him. I do think Cole Kmet had you mentioned the tight ends. It was the first game I thought to myself, wow, Cole Kmet and him are really starting to find a little bit of a groove.
Yeah.
With the tight end being so important as is the modern NFL. And so, yeah, I'm glad to hear that out of Pittsburgh as well, because it certainly felt that way watching the game. So I certainly glad to see that it in the stadium, it felt that way too.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I will say with the taunting thing, it's more, I think, an objection to the rule itself than it is the ruling, because, by the way it's written, it is way too subjective, and it leaves it up. So like, it's not technically the wrong call. It was just the way he made the call was really weird. And then just the fact that the rule exists the way it does and the way it's written is problematic. That needs to be fixed. Were you surprised that why did they go for the field goal, Mark, instead of utilizing Justin Fields' rocket arm and just taking a shot? I mean, did they really think that I know Nagy said he thought the odds were about the same. If they are the same, I still think you try and make a play the other way. I mean, 66, you're going for the record at that point.
I mean, it's certainly one of those where I agree with the statement. The odds are pretty much either way. Hail Marys are really hard to complete in the NFL unless you're Aaron Rodgers. And I think that, listen, I mean, Kairos showed you that he could hit it straight as an arrow for 55 yards, just needed 11 more yards. And so, at that point in time, I was still living off the high of the drive before that Justin Fields did that. And you saw that from your young quarterback to score that touchdown, to put him into that, and then how he handled the drive up into that point. I think looking back on in the moment, I thought to myself, he handled that drive so well there with 28 seconds left or whatever he had after Big Ben did just knifed up the Bears defense. I thought you should have given him the chance to throw it. And the Bears have. Why else, again, why are you paying Jimmy Graham? You have Cole Kmet. Both guys 6'5", Jimmy Graham 6'6", almost 6'7". Allen Robinson can get up there. Mooney, he's got an incredible vertical leap. You have guys where I'd say throw it down there, make something happen. Or where's the creativity as the play caller, Matt Nagy, to say, hey, here's our play at this moment. it's not necessarily a Hail Mary, but maybe it's a hook and ladder type thing, or here's our spiral lateral type play that we worked on in training camp. So I think maybe he didn't want to expose that, or he doesn't have that, which would probably be more of my guess. So, I don't want to get – again, the Bears had lost that game because the defense failed them in that moment. And Big Ben made the plays there to win the game, and the Bears defense lost them the game in that moment. So being too critical on the field goal versus a Hail Mary, it
is what it is.
It is what it is.
Steelers improved to 5-3. Bears now 3-6 on the season. Big Ben became the most sacked quarterback in league history, passing Tom Brady in this game. Can you guess, Mark, who is the one player that has sacked Big Ben the most in their career?
Who has sacked Big Ben the most? Who was on either someone in the AFC North? Is it someone?
It is in the AFC North, absolutely.
Someone on, I'm going to guess the Ravens. Is it a Ravens player? Am I getting closer?
It is a Raven. Yeah.
So which Raven? Suggs?
It's Terrell Suggs. It is.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the exact number now. I believe it was 12. I believe he sacked Ben 12 times in his career, which was the most. But yeah, Big Ben now the most sacked quarterback of all time at 501 sacks.
That's funny because you think of Big Ben in his.
Or no, I'm sorry, not 501. That was a couple years ago. This is
shrugging off sacks. I mean, that's what you think of as Big Ben, is the guy who. But it also just goes to show.
But early in his career too. I mean, he was getting sacked like 45 times a season.
And he's a play extender, so you always took that with Big Ben. All right, can I start?
Let's do it. Let's do it. We got to get right to it. I will
You're
say,
in charge of the show from here on out.
I feel bad for you. So what I did is I got myself some hot tea as well. Okay. So it's gonna be real. It's gonna be really hot, and man, I'm really worried for myself.
We kind of talked about this. The first one, I just got to try to eat it.
You got to eat it straight. Just take a bite without any ranch.
And then I can go to ranch, right?
And you can go to ranch. Now you have your milk and you got your ranch.
And you have whole milk.
Ready, correct.
Mama would be proud. Whole milk.
That's smart because that'll help really absorb a lot of that spice. Although really,
I'm gonna go with a drumstick first. And we'll just get into it. So you lead the show, and we'll see what happens here. There's already you can already see. Oh God, bless America.
I'm gonna absorb this
my
first.
Eyes. Remind me not to rub my eyes. All right.
Definitely don't rub your eyes, and I do want to absorb this first bite here and just kind of see how things are going right off the bat. Because let's be honest, it doesn't seem like it'll go too well. Although you're holding your composure.
So here's the thing. I don't know. I don't do this for fun. I really don't. The most I'll go is like a hot buffalo. You know what I mean?
Yep. Like traditional hot
first
buffalo
I will say extraordinarily juicy wing. Shout out to Buffalo Wild Wings.
There you go. That's good.
So it hits you right away. Well, I'm just going to keep going because I got to get through all 6 of these. So I don't want to wait.
And I know you were saying that your strategy was basically to attack these all in a consistent fashion right off the bat. Is that still your strategy? You think at this point you're just going to try and attack all these as quick as possible?
Get you in the back of the throat.
Oh boy!
Oh no! It's the lips. I don't want the lips to be burning.
Well, see, that's the thing is, if your lips are going to go numb, then we're going to have a difficulty carrying on a conversation here. So pull yourself together here. This is getting out of hand. But, so we said we're going to quickly kind of look at this past week 9 and all of the, different matchups that happened. A lot of the losses, quite a few teams throughout the league that were in the top of the standings have now kind of fallen down. Because
first one clean, no
there
ranch.
You go. Oh man. See, I only said you needed to do one bite, but you went the whole one clean with no ranch.
Listen, I know people are going to call me a baby anyway. As soon as I get to the milk. So I'll say this. It's not as bad as I thought immediately. It's not, but it's not pleasant. It's just not pleasant at all.
Yeah. No, this is, I feel like it'll be a little rough. Maybe around wing like 3.5 is probably where, once you get over that hump, the final stretch, that seems to be a place where that can really get to you. So yeah, we mentioned kind of a lot of teams this past week losing that we didn't expect to lose. The Saints lost a game. The Raiders looked terrible against the Giants. They lost 23-16. The Bills, an atrocious game with the Jaguars winning 9-6. Bills could only muster a couple field goals in this one. That was crazy. And then, obviously the Packers had Jordan Love, so you didn't expect them to win. The Chiefs won a close game, though. The Chiefs barely won that one. And then we had the Rams falling to the Titans at home 28-16. So a couple of these teams that were towards the top of the standings.
Yeah.
Falling off. I mean, were you concerned by any of these losses?
Well, the Buffalo one was shocking. It's on my cheeks now. The Buffalo one was shocking. I don't want to say credit to Urban Meyer, but I mean, they had a game plan. It's hard when I went back and watched a lot of that game. I thought to myself, first off, Buffalo just looked off. So weird, because I didn't think that Jacksonville was doing anything that special to shut them down. But it was one of those weird weeks where I'm glad I didn't gamble much, because you kept looking at the scoreboard and you're going, what the heck's going on? I will say, though, the Buffalo loss was concerning, but not as bad as the Dallas loss. I thought that was more concerning, mainly because now you start the questions of how healthy is Dak? Were you rushing Dak back? And what is Dallas trying to do? They have so
it's all right, buddy.
Yeah. The Dallas loss was a little more concerning, especially because that game was really a blowout. Those scores were late. Those were late scores to make that more of a digestible score.
I think that's a good point, because it was a 2-possession game at the end of it. And that was after the Cowboys made, a little bit of a run in garbage time. 30-16 loss to the Broncos at home, by the way. And it's, Zeke went down for, he was in and out throughout the game. But if you're going to tell me that that's, any sort of major component, it's just not the case. The Broncos played well, and they continue to be such a perplexing team, because, they have the defense, and even though they got rid of Von Miller, they still play, sound football. Teddy Bridgewater's not going to make the crucial mistakes. They have a couple nice, good running backs and good receivers. But they've been inconsistent throughout the season, and they're 5-4 right now, and the Cowboys are 6-2, and the Broncos are still right there in the AFC West. It's a strange that division's bizarre, but and I still feel, but season's end, it's going to be the Chiefs. But I would agree. The Cowboys losing by 14 points, no bueno. And here we go. The
milk.
Got the milk.
I really need to try to cleanse just to see what the milk will do.
Yeah.
I think part of my worry is I felt like I'm worried the milk is just going to be a hero.
Yeah. And then you end up relying on the milk exclusively. And
I also don't want to drink. I also really don't want to drink 700 calories of whole milk.
Well, yeah, so you're gonna be real full of milk by the end of this.
I'm really not trying to make that happen.
So are we 2 down right now? Is that the consensus? We're 2
3
Reapers
down.
in. 3 down.
I'm trying to get the flats down, because they get on the cheeks more. I'm trying to eliminate the flats to end with the drums. The ranch is helping, I will say. I still don't know why anyone would do this just for fun. It's not fun. Nothing about this is fun.
No, it's it continues to boggle the mind why someone would want to inflict pain upon themselves in such a manner into which their mouth is on fire. And I can imagine, Mark, even talking, there's a lot of air passing in and out of your mouth. Is that activating and reactivating the spice, or
fanning the flames?
Yeah, it's flames, and you're just going at it on wing number 3. I think 6 was a good number for us to choose there, because look, we still want to have a show, and we still want to be able to discuss some things. So we're nearing the midway point of this treacherous terrain. We kind of went over a couple of the weird ones. I will say, I think the takeaway from the Packers thing is we've had a year and a half. Jordan Love has had a year and a half at this point to practice, to acclimate himself with the system. Not much has changed, even in terms of personnel on the team. These are people that he's been able to work with. No, he didn't get first-team reps for a year, but he got first-team reps this past week. He's been in the building. and he looked just completely lost. And that's the difference right there. When you talk about, you're seeing guys like Justin Fields, like Mac Jones, like Trevor Lawrence, like right out of the gate, struggling a bit, but growing through the struggles, right?
Yeah.
But they were thrown right into it rookie year, starting, go right at it. Jordan Love had a year to kind of process things and maybe get up to speed. You don't want to put too much on one game, but this was the league's, one of the league's worst defenses. And the Packers managed a touchdown from Jordan Love. He got that one touchdown throw, and he didn't throw any picks. But, man, it's just a lot to be desired after that one. And I think Aaron Rodgers was smiling at the end of that one because that's just who he is.
Well, hold on. I have strong thoughts on this. So I want to quickly say, I think the thing that with Jordan Love that was so odd was the accuracy. He was inaccurate. And I think that's one of those things where it's like, I totally understand game speed, game reps versus practice or whatever you did in the preseason. It's really important. I don't want to overjudge on one game either, because I do not want clips of this coming back, especially this episode where I need Tums. I think I have Tums in my office. Of me saying Jordan Love sucks, Jordan Love's going to be terrible, and Justin Fields going to be better than Jordan Love. I'm not willing to go there yet, but I will say that's got to be slightly concerning, is that you'd think this would be like that moment where his agent's in his ear, the coaching staff, Green Bay wants Jordan Love to do well. They want this to be a vindicated pick. And I think that's what was pretty shocking. Is it's like and I get it, it's on the road in Arrowhead, loud. Chiefs in a must win. Their season just not going the way it is. But the inaccuracy is troubling, because that's the stuff. It's like you can control that. His footwork a little out of line. But I'm actually pretty disappointed we don't get to see him again in another week. It looks like Aaron will probably play against Seattle. I mean, he's free to come back tomorrow. So, it's going to be interesting. I want to see more of Jordan Love, because now it's not fair that you just have that one piece of game footage.
Right.
I want more Jordan Love to try and compare that to. All right, I got like a wing and a half left, so I'm going to power through. You go.
Oh, you already did 4.5 through? That's impressive. Dang. So how much what's the ratio of ranch to wing that you've been employing here during this one? Have you just been dipping in between bites, or are you just soaking the thing in the ranch all at the first
there's a good heavy ranch. Heavy ranch.
Yeah. That's a smart way to go about it. I applaud you.
My fingers are tingling.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's a kind of like, it's a heat, like my cheeks and my fingers are tingling. I mean, listen, I'm not going to die. It's not like I don't feel like I'm on like the Hot Wings hottest hot, thing, what you see, but this just sucks. It's just not fun. And I love wings. So that's like makes it more painful.
I'm surprised that you haven't cried at all, though. I mean, that is impressive, because for me, when it comes to super spicy stuff, the tear ducts get flowing pretty quickly. So I'll applaud you for that one. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
But that last wing looked meaty too. That looked like a good one. Yeah, that's the way to go for it.
Well, the last two have been easier. Like the heat's already there. It's not getting hotter. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true. Yeah, it's just compounding. That's why it's just it's just building upon itself. So we had some big news before we get into the Week 10, looking ahead at some of these matchups here in this coming week, and we'll talk quickly on the Thursday night game that was not the best watch. We had OBJ make the decision in free agency now, after passing through waivers, to go to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, they weren't necessarily on my radar, mainly because I didn't think that they cared enough to go after a guy like that, given that they were, it wasn't a position of dire need for them. Seattle, I didn't really buy. Green Bay, as much as they needed him, I didn't buy, because I didn't think OBJ is you're going to go from playing at Cleveland to go play at Green Bay. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me in terms of a fit for him. LA seems like a perfect fit for who he is as a person, his personality. He's got a lot of friends out there. Obviously, the LeBron James connection is well known. So he gets there, and now he's a part of a trio that's probably the best trio in the league now at this point. Hard to argue with that one. Your thoughts on OBJ to the Rams? As, by the way, did you completely finish?
I got all of them down. I'm going ranch and celery now. It's
all
a
right,
ranch
all right.
celery. So cool down.
Big applause for finishing the 6 wings there.
We need to not. I really don't ever want to do that again.
For those listening to this episode, by the way, Mark has had his eyes open for about half the episode. I will say it seems like a lot of self-reflection, a lot of if you don't see it, it's not as bad.
Yeah. Well, the ranch and celery is delicious. That's really helping. I'll say this: I think OBJ and to LA, I didn't necessarily see coming either. But home in LA, OBJ's in that moment now in his career where he's thinking about the next contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all that matters to him. And if he can show up in LA and prove at a team like in LA, he can help them win, be part of a culture, and also just be at home and be surrounded by a good team of people in LeBron and his camp and whatever. I think that makes sense for OBJ. I'm just shocked the Rams, I'm spitting, the Rams were that interested. That's what was a little bit shocking to me, but they must be really tight with their culture. And at this point in time, the Rams, I mean, talk about all in.
Oh, seriously. I mean, they are going for it. And I think at this point, their trajectory going forward, I mean, if they don't get the 1 seed in the NFC, I think it'd be a disappointment at that point. You went out, they were one of the best, if not the best teams in the league at that a couple of weeks ago. Since then, they've gotten Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, that's and for pretty cheap, relatively, especially the OBJ one is like what, $1.5 million. I mean, this is a win-win for them. It's a win-win for the Rams. It's a win for Vaughn. It's a win for OBJ.
Well, Vaughn's a 2-year plan, though. I mean, Vaughn is a 2-year plan. But he's on the Stafford window right now because I think Stafford's like basically 2 years guaranteed with his current contract, and I think Aaron Donald's got about 2 years left on his deal, maybe 3. So, but yeah, OBJ is a flyer for total. Like, hey, let's help go all in this year. And you know what though, the Rams will easily. I think the Rams will easily cut him in 2-3 weeks if it doesn't work. Like the Rams, I don't think will be afraid to be like, hey, we're trying anything, we're throwing things to the board, didn't work, but we, thanks for your service type of thing.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I just, this is going to be tough to kind of gauge where he fits, where OBJ fits within the offense necessarily, because I don't think he's coming to LA. He's not going to get 12 targets a game still. I mean, if he went to the Saints, he would get peppered with targets. That he would be the guy.
By Trevor Siemian.
Okay, right. So I think the point of this, maybe the takeaway too, is that maybe OBJ is not necessarily looking for continued, involvement and targets. He just wants guys to be able to hit him when he's open. And, that was clear with the video that his dad sent out. And he wants to chase a ring and also just be a contributor. And he didn't feel like he was being given the chance to contribute.
Also, Odell's been a part of dysfunction for a long time. Those Giants teams the last couple of years were bad. The Ben McAdoo era Giants teams were bad. Eli was not nearly near his prime or anywhere near. I'm afraid to touch my nose and my fingers. Hold on. And then with Kevin Stefanski, things obviously were going well, but he just didn't have whatever him and Baker had the problem. There was issues there. I'm happy for Odell. I can't wait to watch him on the Rams. I think it's gonna be Monday night with them and the Niners. It's gonna be fun. Him, Von Miller and him make their debut, and let's see how the Rams handle this pressure.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'm looking forward to that matchup for sure, and just to see Odell's involvement. So I can't imagine that they're going to waste much time. I mean, they'll get him right out there, and this probably hurts Van Jefferson the most. But for those fantasy owners of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, that's probably going to eat into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
But going off of the big moves, obviously Carolina goes out and gets Cam Newton. So the man who's a free agent all season up to this point now is back with the Carolina Panthers after Sam Darnold gets put on IR, is going to be out for an extended period of time. PJ Walker slated to start this week for them. But really, this was a situation where the Panthers started 3-0. They've completely fallen off since then. They've looked terrible. They haven't gotten the quarterback position right. And now, people are fighting for their jobs essentially. And so I think what this was, hey, Cam, we had to release you at the start of our tenure because of the situation we were in. But look, like, if you come back, you help us get back on track here, and maybe this can kind of reset your market for you. It can help get us some much needed wins to keep us just a competitive team relatively, and essentially be something that kind of helps transition them. But it is funny, the people saying, Cam, the Carolina Panthers are paying Cam's replacement as well as his replacement's replacement. And now they bring in Cam to pay Cam to replace his replacement's replacement.
It's crazy.
And there we are.
Listen, the Panthers and the Broncos both passed on Justin Fields and Mac Jones. I mean, that can't be understated at this point in time. Yeah. But I do think what the weird thing I like about this move for the Panthers is it completely says now, I think Cam Newton will start the rest of the games this season for the Carolina Panthers. I firmly believe that. And I think what will happen is he's going to start the next 4 to 6 weeks anyways, because Darnold's out 4 to 6 weeks with a bad shoulder. If he can somehow muster around a 3-3 record, keep them in the hunt, they'll roll with Cam. And what they do then is they tell Cam, listen, we'll bring you back on another 1-year deal. We will draft our franchise quarterback, and then we'll go from there. We'll look at the draft, and you can be the guy that builds and brings that along. 2 years ago, I don't think Cam would have agreed to that. Now I think Cam agrees that. So in a weird way, they kind of get what they wanted 2 years ago anyways, but it just had to go through this kind of mishmash and mishandling. I mean, you look back on it, I don't blame them for taking the shot with Darnold, but the Teddy Bridgewater contract starts to look like a bad deal. You should have either if you're going to give him 3 years, you need to ride with him for 3 years, or draft the guy and let Teddy do what Teddy does and help develop a young quarterback along. Going from Teddy to Sam and that back and forth just has been a mishmash and mishandled. And they deserve some criticism for it. But if Cam Newton can help bring this city back, have some fun, keep them in the playoff hunt, maybe for that 7 seed, and then help them bring along the next quarterback, then Cam Newton can retire Carolina Panther, walk off to the sunset, and really have a good handshake ending and be a great ambassador for the Panthers for the rest of his life.
Yeah, 100%. I think this kind of helps mend a couple of those, things that were previously broken. And you got to give them credit at least for owning the situation. And instead of doubling down, they, because look, I don't think signing Cam for them was the easiest decision, because in a way they had to swallow their pride in some regards and say, hey, like we need you. And that's difficult sometimes for teams to do, especially when they have a history. Now, it was the easy thing to do from an ownership standpoint, because he's going to put fans in the seats. And given the state of the team right now, this maybe will re-energize the fan base a little bit and get them, perhaps excited for Panther football once again for this year. So I think it is a win-win ultimately. And this could perhaps, save a job for Matt Rule or whoever else, to stay on just a little bit longer. So, yeah, ultimately, I think he will start, like you said, the rest of the season. I think he's going to be the guy. And, maybe this will reawaken the Robbie Andersons who have been, tough this year. And, at least the deep threat, we know he can still sling it. So maybe that will be a component of this offense that Cam can latch onto and help bring them back. That Thursday night football game last night, Mark, against the Ravens and Dolphins was underwhelming, to say the least. The Dolphins at home get a win 22-10. A lot was made during the broadcast of the conditions there. I believe it was 80 degrees and it was like 88% humidity or whatever. Tough for those teams, especially when it starts getting cold, to then go back and get acclimated to that type of atmosphere.
The weather was it plays a factor for sure.
Yeah, it does. But obviously there were just mishaps all across the board, and the Dolphins defense rose to the occasion. You got to give Brian Flores credit, getting his team ready to play. They were 2-7 coming into this one. It's easy to give up. The one thing that was weird was, a lot of people after Tua Tagovailoa had to come in because Jacoby Brissett got hurt. You're going, if he was ready and cleared, why not just have the guy go out
Does
there
this
and play?
count for my prediction?
Well,
does that count for my prediction?
Refresh me again. That
my prediction was
he was a healthy scratch.
Game. He technically was a healthy scratch.
No, you're right. I think it probably does. I think you're probably correct with that.
I have two things to say. First off, my mouth isn't that bad anymore. It's tingling. The lips have a burn. My stomach is in knots. My stomach is so unhappy right now. And maybe the mistake was I didn't eat a lunch because I didn't want to be full and try to push it down.
But you got nothing in your stomach to absorb the sauce.
Ice cream. I did buy ice cream. It's in my freezer. I have a fridge in my office. I'm spoiled. I will be attacking some peanut butter chocolate ice cream as soon as we're done recording. And I don't care if that makes it worse or better, but I will be attacking it. My stomach hurts so bad. I have to perform. I have a 4-hour rehearsal of Beauty and the Beast ahead of me.
Hey, this was an all-encompassing punishment.
Just so you know, I'm dedicated to the content game.
And just for everyone to know, Mark is the one who came up with the idea for this specific punishment. So
I didn't think I knew it would be bad, but you think it's fun. It's a funny idea. I hate myself. I will say this about the game last night. Two main thoughts, and we'll move off it quick. Listen, the Ravens, it was a stinker, total stinker. They were not prepared for the blitz. Kudos to the Dolphins for attacking them. And they're saying, you know what? We're going to lose this game. We're going to lose this game on our terms, just trying to go out and attack the Ravens offense. And they did. The Ravens offensive line was not great last night. They were not the more physical team, and that's shocking for the Ravens. And their defense, they did not play well enough to help them win that game when they needed to. Conversely, Lamar Jackson played bad. He had a stinker. Josh Allen had a stinker. Good quarterbacks can have stinkers sometimes. I'll be concerned about Lamar Jackson if in 3 weeks from now he's had 2 more stinkers, and this is some sort of recipe. I'm not yet ever going to even dabble in the league, figure out Lamar Jackson. The kid's too talented for me to joke around like that. But I will say I've been a strong anti-Tua or hard on Tua. But I was very impressed last night. I mean, the kid showed some real grit to be like, basically understanding that they chose another guy over me. And to come out there, go 8 of 13, 100-something yards, the rushing touchdown, make the plays when he needed to. I think Tua is Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, he's a better Case Keenum. He's a less flashy Baker Mayfield. He's Teddy Bridgewater. He is that category of quarterback. If you have the right team around him, Tua can get you to a 9-10 win team to be competing for the playoffs if everything goes right. But if you're looking to pay him and build around him, you're going to be in a bad spot. I think it's as simple as that. We know what we've seen from him so far. For him to battle into that game, I thought it was impressive. But, every good team in the AFC is as soon as we think they're going to take off and run away with the AFC, they all lay an egg right now. So the AFC is wide open besides Tennessee. I think Tennessee, but then they don't have Derrick Henry. So you have to factor that in. Yeah.
I mean, we saw, them kind of try and put a grouping together in the backfield that worked to some degree. They tried, with McNichols and obviously an Adrian Peterson in there. No one's going to be able to replicate what Derrick Henry did. But if they as an offense, particularly if Tannehill, he started to hit his groove the past few weeks. If he in the passing game, if Julio Jones starts to have a couple big games here, A.J. Brown's been phenomenal. If they can do that, they could easily survive the rest of this regular season and potentially be a 1 seed in the AFC. And in that case, you get yourself that bye, which may be extremely beneficial, given perhaps that extra week gives Derrick Henry enough time to come back for the divisional round. I mean, these are things that are plausible. So that's great news for Tennessee. They're winning the games that they need to. For them to win on the road at the Rams without their superstar is huge, and that can't be overstated. They're 7-2 now, and they're 4-1 on the road. This is a team now that has set themselves up to weather some difficult weeks ahead and still be a division winner and potentially a top seed in the AFC. So huge credit to Tennessee. I'm not worried about the Rams now, especially they got OBJ. Like, they're going to be fine. I still think the Rams are going to end up being the 1 seed in the NFC. But to your point, I mean, the AFC is it's confusing. It's relatively wide open. The Bills are not the clear 1 seed. Tennessee is, but like you said, no Henry. Like, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Really, it's almost a complete toss-up, and that's good news for a lot of those teams that are having some rough go. I mean, if you were the Bears right now in the AFC, you would still feel like, hey, we can attack the playoffs here. Right now for the Bears, it seems like the playoffs are very, very much on the outside at this point. They could still get there, but
it's a good week to have a bye week, but the problem is now they get the Ravens after a Thursday night blowout. I don't want to look too far ahead in the schedule. We got to talk about this week's games, but yeah, the Bears are in a rough spot right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. Coming up this week, Mark, we have a couple interesting matchups. So the Saints are going to go on the road and take on the Titans. So that's an interconference battle. But the Titans back home, the Saints kind of needing to bounce back here, and we'll kind of see what happens with Simeon under center for them, what they're going to do with Taysom Hill and things like that moving forward. So that'll be an interesting game. The Browns at the Patriots, 2 5-4 teams. The Patriots, so they moved to 6-4 here. And the Bills, on the road to the Jets, the Bills you would think are going to get a win there to go to 6-3. But if they're 6-3, Patriots 6-4, the Patriots, Mark, do you think
they're back?
They're going to win are they going to win this division?
Well, I don't think they're going to win the division. I still feel confident Buffalo will win. I will just say this about New England: they are quickly becoming that team that everyone just goes, no desire to play them. You know what I mean? If wild card weekend runs around and New England Patriots find themselves in that 7 or 6 seed, everyone who's playing them is going to be like bleepity, bleepity, bleep. I mean, you don't want it. I mean, I give New England credit. They are finding an identity. They are handling their rookie quarterback better than any other organization has a rookie or young quarterback right now. Shocker that it's New England. And they just don't beat themselves. You know what I mean? And it's funny because we were hard on New England. They struggled in September and early October. Tom Brady in his career with New England was never great in September. They were always, always, always good in November and December because what Bill Belichick preaches, the way he coaches football, it seems to get better and better always, like ages like a fine wine. So I'd be scared of New England right now. I fully expect them to take care of the Browns. I like the Titans over the Saints. I'm really off the Saints right now until I know exactly what they're doing with Taysom Hill and what that looks like. I actually think they're better if they just they go and they institute the Drew Brees offense from last year with Trevor Siemian right now. Underneath throws, quick routes, accuracy routes. Trevor Siemian can do that. He's a capable veteran backup. And you do that, and then you add in the spiciness of whatever Taysom Hill is. Then I'll be more on the Saints. But until I see that and I know that's what they're committing to, I'm going to be off the Saints for a while. That's for sure.
Yeah, we just don't know what to expect and what they're going to be able to do. News just dropped a few minutes ago that Nick Chubb will be out for this contest.
I like the Patriots even more.
Yeah, I mean, they're at home. The Browns, who have come off, a couple tough weeks here, are now going to have to go on the road. They got that win last week against the Bengals, but dropped 3 of their previous 4. They're in a situation here, too, where they're going to be competing in a very close division in the AFC North. Going to have to try and figure out. But, this could spell potentially the end for the Browns, unfortunately, because if they lose at the Patriots here, they come back, they get the Lions after that, Mark, but then they go back-to-back games against the Ravens with a bye week in between, but back-to-back games against the Ravens, and then they got the Raiders, the Packers, the Steelers, and the Bengals after that.
A tough road ahead for the Browns.
Very difficult stretch for them. They could, very quickly find themselves going down a spiral. Meanwhile, the Patriots might start to garner that momentum. I still think they got it. They could definitely win this division. I'm not going to go and say they are. There's still plenty of weeks ahead, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. That would be wild, but it really could happen. And, we'll see if the Jets can somehow pull off some miraculous win against the Bills this week. Then the Bills are really in trouble. I don't see it
fully expect the Bills, that to be the last letdown of the season for the Bills. You lose a game like that and you have high expectations. And this is a team that was, in the AFC Championship game last year. I fully expect the Bills to be very dialed in from here on out. I wonder what that Bills-Jets line is. I may bet the Bills to cover that. And the Jets have been playing well, so they're kind of high. So maybe I think people might think the Jets could cover against the Bills. What is it?
They have Buffalo at minus 12.5 right now in Caesar Sportsbook. I mean, that's a lot,
but a
lot of points. But
that's 2 touchdowns. I feel confident right now saying I feel the Bills will be dialed in. Now, if the Bills lay an egg and they somehow lose the Jets or they play really poorly, then the Bills, you have to just take off that preseason thought and you have to then accept from what they are in the moment. But I feel the Bills will be dialed in. Sean McDermott's a great coach, and I fully expect them to also realize. Listen, that Baltimore loss on Thursday night in a standalone game that motivates every team that's competing for a 1 seed and in a division in a conference, because when you lay an egg and then one of the teams that you're like, oh crap, well, now they're going to get an easy win and they're going to get a game up on us, and then they lay an egg, that's another remotivation. Lock in. Well, our goal is still in front of us. If you're Kansas City, if you're the Chargers, if you're any of those AFC North teams, the Bills, the Patriots, you got to take that win as a momentum builder as well.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. The Seahawks travel to Lambeau Field in the afternoon game to take on the Packers. We're expecting Aaron Rodgers back for this one, and Russell Wilson may be making his return sooner than expected for Seattle as well. What are your thoughts on this game? Because really, Seattle's 3-5 right now. The Packers are 7-2. The Packers could afford to lose this game and still be in a comfortable spot. Meanwhile, Seattle's at that point where things could really get out of hand for them quickly, considering you have the Rams and the Cardinals almost with a stranglehold on the NFC West at this point. If you're Seattle, you're just trying to get above water.
Yeah, I will say this. I mean, I fully expect Russell Wilson to come out and look like Russell Wilson. He's the type of guy that you see how intense he's training. I think he knows the camera's watching him a little bit as he does all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's Russell Wilson for you. But I don't expect Russell to look rusty. I think Aaron Rodgers, though, it's a bad spot for Seattle, because talk about Aaron going scorched earth. If Aaron plays, I mean, this could be all hell breaks loose for whoever's in his way. I didn't care if it would be the Rams, the Bucks, whoever it would be. I mean, you're going to see an Aaron Rodgers who's going to be all about football and playing football for the next or the remainder of this season, and that's an easy way to change the narrative back in your favor, win games, get back in the MVP conversation, all that jazz. So I think the Packers will win this game, even with Russell Wilson coming back. The way the Seahawks win this game, though, is if Russell, it's weird. Russell's the one dealing with, he just got a surgery, but he's actually probably having more practice time and in face-to-face time with his guys this week leading up to it, because he's actually allowed to be in the facility working with them, and he's been a full participant in practice from what I've been hearing. So that's the way this game somehow falls apart for Green Bay, is if no matter if Aaron comes out super motivated, but you're just off a step or two, you accidentally make a bad decision, throw a pick or two, and Seattle can create a turnover or two on defense, then they'll win a close game. I still think it's a close game, even if Seattle wins, but I think Green Bay probably comes out and Aaron Rodgers has a vintage Aaron Rodgers performance. And it pains me to say, but I think that's probably what we're dealing with here.
It very well could happen, considering how just inept the Seahawks secondary has been all season long.
So my mouth is fine at this. My mouth is pretty fine at this point. I got to be honest. I'm looking back.
Are you surprised overall at like overall?
If I had no ranch, if we had gone no ranch, my mouth would be in real pain still. The ranch was a godsend. And so I bless your heart for letting us do that. I will say this. My stomach is a disaster. It's a disaster stuff. There's
going to be so rough.
There's going to be some issues. It's not going to be pretty Murph's gonna hear some things later when I get back to my apartment. But
your poor dog, man.
My stomach's in pain, in a lot of pain. And so I'm trying not to drink any more milk because I'm like, I don't think that's helping anymore at this point. I need Tums, and I do need to wash my hands because I want to be rubbing my face, and I've moist toweleted, but I'm still way too nervous getting near my eyes.
Yeah, that could be problematic.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. But I do. You actually almost got me feeling a little sorry for you, almost, but not quite.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that juju on me.
I mean, all of it had to come down to a field goal that was short at the end of the day, and that's where we stand right now. So it's I'm thanking my lucky stars that I'm not in your position right now. I will say that much. We get the Chiefs at the Raiders for the second afternoon game. This should actually be a pretty good one, considering the Raiders get this one at home. Derek Carr's been playing well, and they're coming off of that one rough game that's kind of broken up their stretch of looking really good. So the Raiders are going to come back into this one motivated for this AFC West lead. They are 5-3. Chiefs are 5-4. So if the Chiefs drop this one, the Raiders are going to have a 1.5 game lead on the Chiefs. And if the Chiefs win, then it's real close. It's a half game lead for Kansas City. So just like that, I mean, we were talking a few weeks ago how the Raiders were, in front. The Chiefs were looking terrible, but here we are with the Chiefs still very, very much in play for that division title, and they have an opportunity on Sunday night to make a stand and put some separation between them and the Raiders. Like, what do you think they're going to be able to do it on the road, or the Raiders going to keep going with what they've kind of had?
I'll say this: when I watched that last Chiefs game against the Packers, the word that just kept coming to my mind, and I tweeted it out a bunch, was miserable. Like the offense just looks like there's zero fun.
Not having, exactly.
It feels like the weight of the world is on them. It feels like the pressure, and you know what? It's funny. It makes me go back to thinking to myself, think about all those years with Tom Brady when they're just, even when the media was hating on him and the expectations, like they never looked like that. I mean, it just goes to show you how hard it is to deal with the talent that you have and the expectations that you have. And to put all that together and to remember, hey, this is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having fun and playing this game that we love. I mean, they just look miserable. And you're seeing things, Kelsey just dropping balls. All right, to focus on the game itself. I still have a hard time going against the Chiefs, and maybe that's just enough bias in me. The Raiders, though, they come back. They're at home. This is in Vegas, right?
This is at Allegiant Stadium.
I think this is good for them because they looked out of sorts against the Giants. And the Raiders have been through. Let's all take a step back and say the Raiders have been through a crazy 3-week stretch here. You lose your head coach to dealing with things where you're like, do I even know who this guy is anymore? When you read some of the stuff he was saying and the personal relationships you have with him. So your whole world gets flipped upside down. And then a teammate, a brother in the locker room does, one of the worst things imaginable that is a human being that you always say is like the lowest of the low that you can do as a human being and get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car and ultimately take someone else's life. And you have to deal with that on top of the fact that you don't have stability in your front office. You don't have stability in your coaching staff. So, I would hope the Chiefs would take advantage of a Raiders team that is not cohesive right now. But right now, I just don't trust the Chiefs 100%. I would not bet this game. I don't know what the line is, but
Chiefs -2.5.
Yeah, that's talk about it. Talk about a dirty line.
Yeah,
they're basically saying if this was a neutral field, the Chiefs would be closer to 5 or 6.
I would probably stay away from it. I mean, I could really see the Raiders winning, but I agree with you. The Chiefs, the Chiefs are gonna have a game where they just blow up offensively and just dominate.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point. It's tough to do it against a division opponent that's playing good football. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I truly, I would not be shocked if the Raiders win this game. I don't think you would either.
No,
but this is kind of one of those you're probably going to stay away from.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I'm very interested in watching this game, but because the Chiefs are can't miss football right now, just because they used to be can't miss football because they put on a show and they were electric. It was like watching the Warriors, but now it's like watching the Lakers with LeBron and Westbrook and AD, and you're like, they're all great. Why isn't it working? And it's kind of like this weird train wreck to be watching, and the pressure, you can just see it. You can feel it when they go 3 and out. It's like when another team, gets shut out in a whole game. I mean, they wear the weight of it offensively so much. It's a weird thing to see in the football field.
Yeah, and not much has changed really. It's like if they had personnel overhauls, you would understand it a little bit more. But it's the same unit for the most part that it's been for a few years now. Yeah. Finally, the Monday night game is Rams at the 49ers. Oh. We talked about this earlier. I mean, the Rams only 3.5-point favorites on the road still, but still only 3.5-point favorites against the 3-5 49ers. But the 49ers got Kittle back. Jimmy G seems to be back at full strength. So this are the 49ers ready to go on a run? We'll see. But this is, kind of a big game for the Rams, who are just coming off of that, tough loss to Tennessee. So you would think that LA is going to come with a little bit extra fire here in this one.
Well, all I ask is, at what point in time do we start putting some real pressure on Kyle Shanahan? I mean, you beat up a Bears team, and then with Jimmy G, and Jimmy G's healthy and he's your guy, and everyone else, for the most part, everyone's got injuries, but you have your starting quarterback, you have your piece around, you get Kittle back, and they lose last week. No momentum going for them right now at home against the Rams team now that is all in on the Super Bowl. I hate to say it. I hate to be that guy, but at one point in time, I mean, this is just, again, results, as much as you want to just believe things, then we believe Kyle Shanahan, and we've seen him work really well before. At what point in time do you say like, he's just not Sean McVay at this point in time? Like, right. Sean McVay, I know, and he beat Sean McVay head to head a lot, so maybe that will continue in that trend, but even with Jared Goff last year, the Rams made the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, the Rams are right in there. And I get it. But they don't have that much more talent than a Niners team. This Niners team defensively has stars. This offensive has an incredible scheme. They have weapons. They have Kittle. They're not too far off to where they should be 3-5 and floundering versus a Rams team that's is flourishing right now. There's a lot of pressure on the Niners to win this game and not fall to 3-6. Listen, you lose 6 games this early in the season, you basically got to go 1 loss, 2 loss max. Even 2 loss gets you only 9 wins then total. So you're 1 loss then max.
And the NFC, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, you got to get to 10 wins to have a prayer to get into the playoffs. If you get to 6 wins here, you got 1 loss the remaining of the schedule. That's a lot of pressure for the Niners. So it's a must win for the 49ers at home. Yeah,
and to that point, I took Kyle Shanahan in our head coaching draft first, and that is, I'm deeply regretting that right now because, his record without Jimmy G speaks for itself. I don't know the exact number, but it's not good at all, and it's not like Jimmy G's a top 10 quarterback in this league. So that's when you start asking yourself, where is the the special that has been with him for all these years?
Yeah.
Maybe he is just suited for being a phenomenal OC. Maybe he's Josh McDaniels and not, a Bill Walsh or something like that. It could be that. And
I want to give him the rest of the year, but at this point in time, you just have to start saying to yourself, like, and obviously they've invested heavily in him and Lynch together. They have long contracts that are tied together. And he'll get his chance with Trey Lance, but there's going to be a learning curve and a struggle next year with Trey Lance. They're not going to be a playoff team probably next year because of Trey Lance. Like, there's going to be a lot of losses on Kyle Shanahan's resume if he doesn't turn it around quick here this season. to where he's got to win a lot of games in year 3, 4, and 5 at Trey Lance to right his own ship of winning games and winning playoff games and getting back to that level. It's just a weird storyline. There's so much going on in the NFL right now, from Odell Beckham Jr. to Cam Newton, the Patriots playing well. And all of a sudden you look over in the NFC West, you're like, the Niners are what? And they could drop to, it's and they have wild. Jimmy G. It's certainly a storyline that is not getting a lot of attention.
And they haven't won a home game yet this season. So gotta turn that around here this week on Monday night. But I think we're all looking forward to it. It should be a good game.
I think the Rams will win.
And I think the Rams will win too. Just too much firepower there. And we'll probably see Von Miller much more in this game. His first action as a Ram. So, hopefully they'll be able to roll him out there and get him some reps. And it'll be a tough sledding for the 49ers if they lose this one, no doubt. So that should wrap it up, Mark. I gotta give you props for, sticking to your guns. We have it on tape, so I know you were kind of forced to pull through with it, but you reapered what you sowed. And,
I gotta be honest.
I gotta give you credit.
I'm sick and tired of the Bears causing me pain. I'm just glad they're on a bye this weekend. No, very little pain can be caused to me this weekend by them. But you know what? I will say, anyone who does stuff like that and they go and they order that and that's what they eat, I don't know how they sleep well. I don't know how they must live on Tums and Pepto-Bismol, because the mouth pain goes away and the ranch and the milk certainly take care of that. But the stomach, I almost feel like I ate like 30 wings, only had 6. I don't want to burp, but I have to burp too. And I'm like, it's very nasty what's happening in my digestive tract. But you know what? Luckily, the Bears and the Steelers only play once every 4 years.
Right, exactly. You may not have to go through with this.
We'll see in 4 years.
A little while longer.
Oh God,
we could certainly make a tradition out of this. I'm all for it. There will be a crazier wing coming out at that point. So, but yeah, good luck to you. We'll send you off to the bathroom, and I just wish you the best of luck, really, moving forward here as this day progresses.
I need to do something before rehearsal tonight. That's for sure.
Well, at least it's good. You have some leftover sauce, so if you get hungry later.
The smell in this studio. We're not supposed to eat in the studio. Sorry, boss. It's a nasty one, that's for sure.
We'll give it a pass this time around. But all right. Well, thanks, Mark, for being such a good sport. Thank you all for listening and watching in this special edition, late edition. We'll be back here next week in just a few days at this point, to give you our Week 10 recap episode reaction. So we mentioned all these great games, quite a few competitions to get through. I imagine that we'll have a pretty fruitful discussion next week. And Mark will be off the PUP list next week as we had to put him on that here for this week. You were questionable to return, but you made it. I
feel like Lamar Jackson in that one game where he had to run off the field.
Yes.
It was cramps.
It was cramps. He didn't have to use the restroom. No way. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully you come back and do a game-winning drive for us next week on the show. Yeah. Great. All right. Until then, wish Mark the best of luck, everyone. Give him some love on social media. He'll need it. Follow us as always at Dan Vasco, at Mark Espin, at FB Lounge Pod, and we'll see you here next week.